And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SDA off. Bring in SDA off. It's orange! 125!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
There's a rocket on the pad. However, it isn't Starship. It's Falcon 9. Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Caton. Welcome to our coverage of USSF-124, United States Space Force 124. That's what it stands for. I'm seeing all the 5x5s in chat. It's very good to see you, everyone, again. I presume a lot of you may have already been seeing our Starship coverage for today as that vehicle attempts a wet dress rehearsal. This vehicle, however, will be attempting a launch of 6 different satellites inside of that payload fairing, which you can see there at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The window opens in just over an hour's time, but of course, USSF mission, what do you expect? It's a little bit secretive, but we'll be getting into that as we get into the show. It's not just my voice you'll be hearing, because alongside me, I have a certain Sawyer Rosenstein. How you doing, Sawyer?
Oh, this certain Sawyer. I thought you were going for
This
the other
specific Sawyer.
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, we saw a little bit of frost on the vehicle in Texas, so hopefully we'll get this vehicle nice and frosty. And yeah, I mean, SpaceX has vehicles going at every single launch pad they own right now, so this is exciting.
There's a nice number of engines vertical at every single SpaceX pad. And in the field, Julia, how are you doing? Joining us from the press site.
Why, hello there. I am at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and we are at Loop Road, what feels like in reachable range of Launch Complex 40, and it is a beautiful, nearly cloudless day here.
A nearly cloudless day sounds like a completely alternate universe to the UK, where I currently am. Anyways, you know the drill by now, especially if you're new and you've been watching the Starship stream all day. If you've got a question for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. That'll bring it into the queue so we can ask them one by one and we don't get bombarded with a ton of different questions at once. And you also get your questions shown on screen as well, so you get your name on there. We're also, as you may have already seen by Musical Wolves, Super Chat. We have you can support us through Super Chats and whatnot. That also comes into the queue, and we'll do as best as a job as possible as acknowledging all of that support as well. We have been getting a lot of support today. And before this stream even started, I'm going to very quickly go through, just before I toss it over to Sawyer, very quickly go through a bunch of different people becoming members. We have James the Armchair Rocket Guy becoming a Capcom member, Randall becoming a Red Team member, Todd becoming a PadRap member, Matt Yatsi becoming a PadRap member, Adam becoming a PadRap member, Peter becoming a PadRap member, Tao becoming a Capcom member, Wonko becoming a Capcom member, Emir Ann becoming a Capcom member, Lady Rocket becoming a PadRap member, the Purple Sector becoming a Red Team member, and T and H becoming a Red Team member. And with that, Sawyer, do you want to go over what we know, the very little information we know about today's payload?
Yeah, that is a very good point. Everything we know is what we've seen released from the Pentagon and other sources like that, but there's a lot of vague details. The main thing that we do know is that this mission is set to carry 6 different satellites, all of them with some form of prototype missile tracking on them. So that's for the Missile Defense Agency as well as the Space Development Agency. If SDA sounds familiar, that's because we've seen a couple of Tranche 0 launches. So the Tranche, kind of their first group of testing satellites here. Those are going to be 4 different satellites that will be launching in particular for them. That will be doing a medium track of ballistic missiles from space, as well as a wide view of ballistic missiles from space. Normally, these were going to operate in a near polar orbit, which we've seen a lot of polar launches for them. We thought this was originally going to be polar, but it turns out these are going to be going somewhat equatorial to low Earth orbit. How high? Don't know. Exact inclination? Don't know. That's the secrecy of it. In addition to that, though, there are two other satellites. Again, as mentioned, the ones from the Missile Defense Agency. That is the HBTSS, the Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor. So basically, in short, that is meant to be able to track a missile from the second it takes off to where it would be crashing down, with the goal that there will be a bunch of different satellites, some that communicate, some that are the ones that track, and then working together will send that information down to information on the ground, to the ground's equipment that can terminate said missiles and help protect the United States.
Sounds good.
Hopefully
And,
that made sense.
Yeah, for those of you who were not aware, there was meant to be another SpaceX launch last night, the Intuitive Machines 1 mission carrying the Nova Sea lander, and that was supposed to be an RTLS. However, it scrubbed. This launch, however, is also supposed to be an RTLS. So Sawyer, how two RTLSs? How'd that work?
Well, the good news is SpaceX has the two landing zones. Typically, we only see them used together for Falcon Heavy, where you get one at LZ1 and the other at LZ2. So it's the same thing, except instead of landing about 20 seconds apart, they're landing about 8 hours apart. So we believe that this one is scheduled to land at LZ2. It may have changed with the delay on the IM-1 mission, but we are under the assumption right now that it is going to land at LZ2, which I believe is only the second Falcon 9 to land at LZ2.
Mm-hmm. And there's a few messages in chat asking about the weather. Julia, you said it was a nearly cloudless day in Florida. How's the wind doing? Is it windy? Is it warm? How's it feeling?
Let's just say that this is one of the calmest days we've had in a while. We've had kind of subtropical El Nino winter weather around here, and it's comfortable to be in short sleeves, and the sun feels really good on my back right now.
Musical Wolves kicking off the super chats today with a $5 super chat saying, if Vandenberg also launches today, will it be the shortest time between launches on both coasts? Sawyer, do you have the numbers there? This is really an Alex question. We may have to ask him. Do you have the numbers? Do you know, or should we give Alex a ping?
Oh, I'm checking the numbers that Alex has originally given us here. It doesn't state exactly. Again, part of that is the fact that they've all moved around and scrubbed and delayed a bunch, so it might be, but just for reference, this mission is expected to go at 5:30 Eastern. The Starlink out of Vandenberg is scheduled to go at 7:30 Eastern, and the Falcon 9 over at 39A is set to launch at 1:05 a.m. Eastern. So all of this within 7.5 hours.
Yeah, and it's important to note that officially a launch window has been publicised for this flight, as that lasts from 22:30 to 02:30 Universal Coordinated Time. That's 5:30 in the evening to 9:30 in the evening local time in Florida. So the launch can take place at any point between those two times. We are just counting down to the beginning of the window here because that's the last information we got of when it's going to launch. And SpaceX tweeting these 4 wonderful photos showcasing, as I alluded to earlier, 4 different SpaceX vehicles are vertical on every single SpaceX operational pad they have at the moment. Slick 40 here in Florida. We also have the IM-1 vehicle is vertical at 39A, just down the road from here. We have the Starlink vertical at 4 East in Vandenberg, and of course Starship fully stacked at Starbase. There's Starship. There you go. Yeah, that means if you add all the engines together, that means you get a total of 69 engines are currently vertical at all
Nice.
of SpaceX's pads, which is a very nice round number there for the pads. And speaking of the weather, just going to bring this up very quickly from the United States Space Force. The last official forecast showed a less than 5% chance of a weather constraint violation. The primary concern is the thick cloud layers rule. And the upper level wind shear is low to moderate, and the solar activity is low to moderate. And as you can see there from one of our Cape cams, which will hopefully be able to catch the RTLS today, the weather is looking quite good.
Wow, look at all of those low-level clouds there. I mean, I don't know. It's iffy.
And if they do have to push by 24 hours, which fingers crossed they don't, that increases to a 10% chance of violating, probability of the weather constraints being violated. But fingers crossed we get this off the ground today.
Did you guys know? Did you know that one way us locals know that things seem to be on track is by following the Brevard County EOC, who is currently saying that we're on track for a 5:30 launch. But of course, we always wait for that 20-minute event to really give us a great idea of what's going on here out on Cape.
It's a great resource. They notify when they activate, and sometimes you can get an early hint at, I hate to say the S word, but if anything scrubs, as they deactivate early sometimes. So they're a great resource to follow. And as they recently tweeted, like you were pointing out, that they are activating their launch operations for the window of 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So it doesn't have an exact time, but they're ready for the window.
Again, if you have any questions for us, everybody, tag us in chat at NASA. That's the tweet. If you have any questions, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. That'll bring it into the queue. Like Cooper's question here, asking at NASA Spaceflight, is that cladding being added to the tower like at LC-39A? Julia, from your vantage point, can you see them adding cladding to the Slick 40 tower yet?
Well, well, I can't exactly say yes or no to that one. I see what you all probably see, which is an extended lift, but I would assume an extended lift would not be operating right at the pad at this moment. Normally, that would be my cue from the air to tell you I think they're working on cladding. Honestly, does the tower look terribly much different to me yet? Absolutely no, not yet.
If anything, it looks like it's a fresh coat of paint. That's about it.
Yeah. And you can see it compared there to the 39A tower.
Right. And that coat of paint is very important, actually, because as you all saw, SpaceX transported 4 of the Starship tower segments on a barge to Brownsville. And when we saw that at the press site, they looked so very much different than what they looked like when we went over the Hangar X Roberts Road area, just because the salty air from the ocean does its job really quick for corrosion. So when we send something over to another launch site, we send it over painted all pretty and with a heart that says "Stack me."
Some good photos of that on L2 if you want to go have a look at L2, which you can get a membership for in the shop now. Everyone loves the shop. The booster, which you can see there at the moment, kind of unhelpfully hiding behind the strong back there from this extra close-up view we get here from Loop Road. That booster in particular is B1058. This is going to be its 7th flight.
That's 78. You had to bring up the destroyed one. Just make us all sad.
What did I say?
RIP 1058.
I meant to say 78. Apologies, everyone. It's meant to be a 74-day turnaround. Its last flight was Starlink Group 631 in December, right at the start of December. This will be its 3rd non-Starlink flight. It's done 4 Starlink flights, O through BM Power 3 and 4 in April last year, and its first flight was Crew 6 all the way back in March of last year. bit of support coming in here from John. Just wait for the panel to bring it up. So there we go. $10 super chat. Thanks very much for that, John, saying, heck of a day. Starship testing, Falcon 9 launch, and a real reason to celebrate. I aced my job interview today. Thanks to all of you for the streams. You're very welcome, John, and congratulations for acing your job interview.
Big congratulations.
Yes.
Name we see here often, so love to hear good things.
Mm-hmm. Have a look through here then. So there's been some rumours, Twitters, Instagrams, social media posts, all of those things. Some people are saying, Sawyer, this is going to be the 299th Falcon 9 mission. Some people are saying it's going to be the 298th. Some people are saying it's going to be the 297th. So what's actually happening? What number is this?
Well, a lot of it depends on how you count certain missions. If you count the in-flight abort mission, that changes the number slightly. And again, the fact that all of these keep shuffling. This was, I believe, going to be the 298th or 99th, but now that it's set to go first of the three, I believe if you count the in-flight abort test, this is launch number 297. And again, that does not include AMO 6. So it really is a little tricky to figure out, but we are very much nearing the 300th launch there.
It's always the specifics. Always the specifics.
Yeah, I mean, Pluto will always be a planet in my book, but this one I'm down with specifics.
Let's have a look through here. We're also getting some store messages coming in. I imagine that most of these people will be watching our Starbase stream today and not the Falcon stream. But I'm going to thank them anyway. A big thanks to Jerome for purchasing what I will imagine will be... Oh, it's not the patch, it's the NSF sticker. Thanks for getting that off the store. Suzanne has become a PadRap member. Ross has purchased all 3 patches off of the store. And Anonymous has... I imagine gotten a patch. Find out. Yes, the Flight 3 patch. If you don't have the Flight 3 patch yet, get them whilst they last, because we bulk buy them. So every single patch is a bulk purchase, if you didn't know. So once that number once we run out of patches, then they're not coming back. So make sure, we're not just saying that to say it either, it's like the truth. We don't want people to be disappointed when it's like, oh, I wanted to wait to buy the patch, and now I can't buy the patch because you ran out of patches. We have a set supply of patches, so if you want a patch, make sure to buy it as soon as possible, because like I said, they won't last forever. Matilda saying, always a pleasure attending these live coverages with you guys. Probably will make it over there for a launch this year in person. Much love from Sweden. Thank you very much for the support, for the super chat there. And if you want to figure out where to watch a launch from, Julia, I believe you partaked in a very helpful video explaining all of the put my teeth back in. All of the best places to watch from.
We sure did. Max and I took to the air, and our team put together a video that pretty much is timeless and will suit you and answer your questions for just about any launch that you are here for. Today, I imagine a lot of our viewers, because of landing zone proximity, are probably near Jetty Park or Port Canaveral in general areas. So I hope everybody out there that's tuning into the stream is enjoying themselves. And if you ever come to visit, please, if somebody could maybe link that in our chat, that is a great resource to how to watch a launch like a local, basically. And I just wanted to note that SpaceX recently tweeted that it is a lovely day for a launch, and we are under 1 hour until launch. And I'm glad SpaceX agrees with me that it is indeed a lovely day out here.
Yes, that is the official SpaceX terminology for weather. Lovely.
I have a sneaking... I've been on a stream all day. I have a sneaking suspicion on who might have tweeted that one. And Chris W. very helpfully has spammed that video in chat. So if you do want to see the video, just like open it in another tab and pause it so you can continue watching this one.
It is very helpful. So, and also, if you are down for a launch and you happen to catch any of us Florida NSFers, Julia, Max, or myself, we may or may not carry something special for people that we meet. So don't forget to patch up if you see us.
Okay, Sawyer.
Fine, I'll patch my bags and go. It's fine.
Wow. I really thought I heard venting from a rocket in that moment, but no, that is not what I heard.
Jack is asking Sawyer, why do we not include Amos 6? What happened with Amos 6?
Well, when we're talking about liftoffs, Amos 6 kind of didn't actually lift off. I mean, the payload did, but that was they were doing a preparation for the wet dress rehearsal, kind of like we're seeing with Starbase. They're getting ready to test it on the pad, and there was an issue with the vehicle, and the vehicle exploded, and the Amos 6 payload was on top of it, so that was lost. That's a lot of times also now why you see SpaceX rolling out Falcon Heavy with nothing on top of it for its static fire, then rolling back and getting the payload. So it kind of went kaboom on the pad, knocked Slick 40 out of commission for quite a while. So it's not technically a launch.
Cooper is asking, do you think we could have a Falcon 9 Block 6 or a Merlin 1C or 2 engine? Well, we do have a Merlin 1C. Merlin 1C is actually an engine that's flown. We're now up to the Merlin 1D. But Sawyer, do you think that Falcon 9 will ever see a Block 6, or are they just kind of iterating on Block 5?
I mean, SpaceX has said in the past that Block 5 was their ultimate goal, and at this point, I mean, they've got a vehicle that is pretty reliable, it's pretty well fine-tuned. I mean, they can get it out from the hangar and into the sky in a couple of hours at this point. So, I don't see them doing anything, maybe iterating, Falcon 9 Block 5.0012 kind of thing. But I don't think they would ever go for a Block 6, especially since the focus right now especially is on developing Starship. And so while you have something that's reliable, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Very quickly, Julia, in between the top of the interstage and underneath the fairing is the second stage, and we can see a certain grey stripe. Now, why on earth have SpaceX decided to paint nearly half of the second stage grey?
Well, you know what? I think you were reading my mind as I was typing a question towards Sawyer, and I was about to point out that indeed is one of the differences you may or may not be noticing from our point of view here. And I'm going to let Sawyer go a little bit more in depth, but basically it has to do with a long duration burn and keeping fuel at the correct temperature. Am I right, Sawyer?
You are exactly right. So yeah, basically, we're used to seeing this on something like a Falcon Heavy, where it's a direct to geostationary orbit, where it's going to be out there for, say, 6 hours or so coasting before they finally release it or do one final burn and then release it. It's not that often that we actually see it on Falcon 9, but that gray stripe is meant to help basically control the propellant temperatures during that extended coast period. So that does give us a little more information about this mission that wherever it's going, it's going to be coasting for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. As usual with a United States Space Force mission, it's a little bit secretive, but something that is a little less secretive is the trajectory, because in order to launch they need to post NOTAMs and NOTMARs and all of the hazards, which means we can figure out roughly which direction this vehicle will be flying in, and in the case of USSF-124, it's going to the northeast. As you can see, it's not as far north of an inclination as we would typically see for the International Space Station, which is 51.6 degrees. This one is a little further south, but it's still going to the northeast there. So you can see the the launch hazard zone on the left hand side, and then on the right, I believe that would be the booster. In the event of a booster failure, that would be the little zone which is put in place there, because of course with an RTLS flight like this one is today, they have the boost back burn, but in the event that the boost back burn doesn't take place, SpaceX needs to ensure that everybody is aware just in the very unlikely event that it doesn't boost back, where the booster will end up, which is what I believe that hazard area is for in the top right of the image.
Couple things. You also don't want to get hit in the head with a fairing, as those fairings are reused, which we just recently got confirmation from SpaceX that they have flown and recovered a fairing half that has flown 15 times, with plans to fly it a 16th. The other thing to note is that red, just off to the east of Cape Canaveral itself, that is related to LZ-1's landing. You may recall, I believe it was CRS-16, where they were coming in for a landing zone landing and a valve got stuck. So rather than destroying the launch pad, they disposed of it in the waters just off of the Cape. So you have that dual action of, yeah, obviously there's the concern during launch, but for the RTLS landing, if they don't think it can make the zone, they have that kind of destructive splashdown zone.
Mm-hmm. And also, Patrick just very quickly showed the other end of this flight. There we go. That's the second stage re-entry hazard zone, which has been posted. So when the Space Force are done with the second stage, SpaceX will deorbit it, and as you can see there, it's scheduled to splash down. Will more likely re-enter and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere just past the coast of Madagascar. This is a very useful image here. If you want to demonstrate the launch, entry, and landing burns, like we will see today, you can get a T-shirt, or you can get a hoodie, and I think you might also be able to get a mug with that very cool design on at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I do have to say that is one of my favourite designs. That's one of my favourite shirts that I've got. So have at that with what you will. As we can see, some vehicles currently driving away from the pad. Now, Sawyer, you've been to this. I think you've been to Loop Road before for Atlases, and so yes, of course you have. Classic Sawyer flex. These vehicles, they may look close to the rocket, but they're not actually close to the rocket, are they?
No, and even so, the actual keep out zone for vehicles and things near the launch isn't anywhere near as distant as you might think for these. We're talking a couple miles away here, so it is well within the keep out zone for those vehicles driving on that road.
John Dopker, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, with the $2 super chat asking, stubby nozzles, yay or nah? Luckily, Max can't be on comms today, which is good. So we can go around the horn here. I'm going to kick things off with stubby nozzle bad. How about you, Sawyer?
I am also going to go with stubby nozzle bad. Whether this mission has a stubby nozzle or not, that's a great question. And the answer is, hopefully we'll find out at stage separation if they don't cut cameras away from the second stage before then.
Yeah. Julia?
Oh, goodness gracious. I am of the no opinion crew. I guess if I have to lean toward anything, I'm just going to go for the classic. Because all it does is cause y'all to act like little ones. Just saying. Just saying. The classic is good.
Nuh-uh. We don't act like little ones.
I'm seeing some people in chat saying stubby nozzle good. I think you might have misspelled horrible or atrocious. Just double check your spellings there. Actually, sorry, you answered a question which was in that was in the queue here, saying, where's it gone now? I've lost it. Here we go, from Xbar, saying, is the second stage engine stubby or no? Essentially, we don't know, and we hope not. So, yeah. fingers crossed Sawyer's answer there was good enough.
And part of that is, for those who don't know why we even have the stubby nozzle, the reason is basically the fact that they are launching so many of these missions that they need a second stage that they can develop a little bit quicker, but at the same time it also has slightly less efficiency. So for certain missions, when you don't need that extra oomph to it, you can get away with doing the stubby nozzle, which is obviously a lot shorter. So we don't know if it is on this one or not. It's possible, given that we do know that it's going into some kind of low Earth orbit somewhere near equatorial, is the vague answers that we've been given. It might. We'll have to see, though.
There's a question in here from Deborah asking, what are the other launch times for today? Now, Sawyer, the last update from SpaceX indicates they're aiming the top of the window. Do we have any other specific T0 times today, or is it just a window?
It's just a window, but apparently we can see frost on the rocket there. So
Just in the back, behind the strong back. Just peeking
so that is
through.
a good sign that they are aiming for the top of the window at in just 28 minutes from now. And the one thing to keep in mind, though, is that means the rest of the window is out of the question. So if it doesn't go now, they would have to detank, and it would take too long to turn everything around again for the same day. So this is our one and only shot now.
Does look like there's a little bit of connectivity problem there, so there we go, we've got it back for the time being. We were looking at the other Falcon on the other pad. Luckily 39A and 40 are starting to look near identical with the crew access arm and the tower there on the left hand side, so if we switch away you probably won't even notice, apart from the grey stripe on the second stage.
Also, the camera is located on a tiny strip of land in the middle of a national wildlife reserve that is a part of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's not like there's major cell towers there to help provide steady speeds.
If I remember correctly, the only tower around is like a big dish on top of the VAB, because it's the biggest thing for miles. So that, like, everybody's phone is currently connected to the top of the vehicle assembly building, which is why every so often we get some hiccups, as expected. It can only cope with so much. Cooper is asking here, will Falcon Heavy launch from Space Launch Complex 40 and the upcoming Slick 6? Sawyer, what's your take on that? Do you think they'll retrofit 40 for Falcon Heavy, and do you think Falcon Heavy will be or they'll modify Slick 6 to allow Falcon Heavy?
Slick 40? I don't think so. I mean, this is the busiest launch pad in the world right now, and it takes quite a while to do the change out from Falcon Heavy to Falcon 9 over at 39A. So I think the plan, at least for the foreseeable future till Starship becomes more of a thing, is keep 40 for Falcon 9, and then keep 39A for Falcon 9/Heavy. Now out west, considering they already have 4 East, the question is, are they going to do Slick 6 to kind of be like the Cape, where you have 2 Falcon 9 launch pads? I think it's possible. Not saying that it's going to happen, but I think it's possible that Slick 6 could become a Falcon Heavy for polar launches.
Something I also just want to bring up again as more and more people join us now for the launch of USSF-124. That clock in the top left is counting down to the opening of the window. Now, everything SpaceX has said and everything they're doing, including loading the vehicle with propellant right now, indicates they are go for the start, the very tippity top of that window. However, we haven't been given a specific T0 time from SpaceX or the Space Force, which is understood since this is a classified mission. So if the clock in the top left is out by a few seconds, potentially even a couple of minutes, that's why we just haven't been given a specific time. But we'll be obviously, when the rocket launches, we'll know what the specific time is.
We'll also have another indicator coming up in a couple of minutes too, right, Julia?
That's right. I'm waiting for something to get very frosty and then very venty. There are a few things we can tell you for certain about this mission. This rocket will go up. It will go to an inclination, and its first stage booster will come back down and land. So, we're prepared to track a rocket whichever direction it goes.
Yeah. Have a look in here. Owen Johnson with the $10 super chat saying, hello to my son who's in Titusville watching the launch. Hello, Travis. Hello, Travis.
Hi, Travis.
Hopefully you've got the stream open on your phone or something, just with your headphones in, waiting to watch the launch. Fingers crossed that video we talked about earlier was helpful as well in picking your spot. I assume you'll be at Kirk Point or somewhere along those lines. A couple messages from the store as well. People hoovering up the patch. Chris saying, love you guys, got me some IFT3 merch. Oh, you got the Destination Moon. Destination Known, not Destination Moon. Look at me go. Destination Known hoodie. It has the moon on it, so you get easily confused. And Brian saying, thanks for the coverage, love the patches, can't wait for the 3rd patch. I'm going to assume... Oh, you didn't order the 3rd patch. You might have already ordered the 3rd patch, maybe waiting for it to arrive, but you've got a metal print there of the full stack. I think some new metal prints have recently gone up onto the shop. Let me quickly check, because our photographers down in Starbase, Mary and Sean, have been capturing some absolutely beautiful photos. Yeah, there's a couple of new metal prints up there just now of the new full stack of Ship 28 and Booster 10. 10? Yeah, 10.
Yep.
But I just got to double check there because I keep getting it wrong. Not for retail asking, when do you think they'll launch the first humans from Pad 40's new tower? Now, I saw Axiom 3 was rumoured to be that first mission, but they launched from 39A. So now I don't think we really know, do we?
We really don't. I mean, I think one potential might be something like Polaris Dawn, which is, I believe, scheduled for early, middle-ish of the year. I know that keeps
Summer,
that date
maybe.
changing.
We'll find out.
Yeah, the date keeps changing on that one. I think that might be the time because they still have to make sure that everything's good with all the crew access arms, with all the escape systems, things like that.
And Delta 5 Heavy, interesting name, is asking, do you think we'll ever see Falcon 9 fly with the extended fairing, or will it just be for Falcon Heavy? I don't think we really know. I'll go around the table here. Julia, do we think we'll ever see a long fairing on a Falcon? Do you think that'll just look a bit weird, or do we think it will just be Falcon Heavy?
Well, I don't know if we'll see a long Falcon or a long fairing on a Falcon. I'm just thinking for weight reasons. At this point, we're optimized to what they're offering for fairing and payload capacity. So I'm aiming toward the no.
Sawyer, what do you think? Long fairing on Falcon 9?
I think the whole plan has always been for Falcon Heavy and 39A out there. So, yeah, I don't think it's faring well for that happening at 40 for Falcon 9.
You're in for a long
more
one today,
venting.
ladies and gents. Yeah, you can see, we'll just completely skip over that one there from Sawyer. You can see a bit more frost poking through the strong back here at Space Launch Complex 40 from the booster as frost starts to rise. That's the liquid oxygen, the cryogenic liquid oxygen, which is obviously half of the way which the Merlins produce power, the other half, of course, being RP1, a refined form of kerosene. So actually kind of just, the fact that this frost is literally like this kind of condensation is like not going anywhere is a very good indication of how calm the winds are. There's no need for a windsock. You can just look at the frost and it's not going anywhere. It's basically staying in the same place.
And we'll get an even better indication of the wind in just about 1 minute.
Yeah, as the big old T-minus 20-minute event starts. Very quickly, though, ground umbilical carrier plate with the $2 saying NSF should sell the faces of Ryan as a metal print. That's a very funny inside joke if anybody understands that one here on NSF. That'd be quite funny, being honest. That'd be quite funny. Astro3DI asking, are you guys commentating on the IM-1 flight tonight? Sawyer, are we commentating on the IM-1 flight tonight?
Unfortunately, you're stuck with me again. Yes, we will be live for the IM-1 mission tonight. And you can see it there on the right side of your screen at Pad 39A. The issue last night dealing with some of the methane that's actually being loaded into the payload, so hopefully that is fixed for tonight.
Mm-hmm. As we see more vehicles driving in front of, down, just past, I believe that white SUV there was heading towards ULA's pad, because just before the fork in the road, SpaceX and ULA kind of share the same roads to Slick 40 and Slick 41.
And would you look at that?
We have a beautiful T-minus 20-minute event, bang on time. Absolutely beautiful. See what time specifically. Here we go. So after this T-minus 20-minute event, the second stage will begin LOX loading in the back. T-minus 16 minutes to go. Here we are. T-minus 20 minutes, 20 seconds is the LOX chill down. And then after that, the Falcon 9 will begin engine chill at T-minus 7 seconds. The strong back will begin to retract at T-minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The first stage liquid oxygen's load will wrap up at 3 minutes and 10 seconds to go. The second stage LOX load will complete at 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Falcon 9 will enter startup at 1 minute. The prop tanks will also be pressurized. The LD, the launch director, will verify go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds. The engines begin to ignite at T-minus 3 seconds. We'll see that green flash of the T-tab, the water deluge system sprinklers going off as well. And then with 0 seconds to go, Falcon 9, fingers crossed, will be ascending to the heavens from Space Launch Complex 40 in just over 19 minutes' time. as that T-minus 20-minute vent. Very, very, very visible in Florida this afternoon. It's afternoon for you now, right? Yeah.
It is afternoon, yes.
Evening, some may even say. Evening. 11 minutes past 5 in the evening.
Nearing dusk.
Nearing sunset. And speaking of sunset, Julia, is this launch just a bit too early for a jellyfish? Is the sun still going to be visible in 18 and a half minutes' time?
Oh, yeah, that sun is definitely still going to be here with us in 18 minutes' time. So we're going to trade you a jellyfish for boost back, though.
Oh.
Fingers crossed we get a good look, and maybe the VAB will even squeal for us a few times as we get the triple sonic booms of B1078. Get it right this time. B1078 coming back to land.
Yep, we do have microphones that are near the VAB, so we can try and catch that squeal, so hopefully you'll be able to hear them.
Yep. Fingers crossed I'll keep getting the booster number right.
And by the way, I think it's just worth pointing out really quickly that the reason that it's venting is that they've been loading the rocket-grade kerosene, the RP-1, into the second stage, and that is just about completed. So they are purging the lines in anticipation of the second stage. LOX load beginning, as you mentioned, in about 1:40 seconds from now.
Sounds good.
Which we can now confidently say is the T0, hence the removal of the window.
Yeah, we can now verify that it does appear the T0 is at the opening of the window. And also, something I forgot to mention earlier, which I will just bring up because everybody loves the SpaceX fleet, and if you don't, we've got a video coming out soon about that, which keep an eye on, which I've been plugging all week, which I should probably actually be getting worked. I'll be honest, everybody. The SpaceX fleet video, I was supposed to be editing it today, but a certain shiny silver rocket decided it wanted to get frosty in Starbase, so we may have to wait just a little bit longer, but we'll find out. Yeah.
Frosty.
Yes. So, Doug, everyone's equally favourite offshore supply ship, is going to be the fairing recovery vessel today, and that is currently in the Atlantic Ocean awaiting the fairings to be jettisoned, which will then parasail, should I say, back to, or gently glide, perhaps even, back to the ocean, the sea, where Doug will scoop them up. I was about to say the sea floor. That's not right, because if the fairings end up at the sea floor, something has gone a little wrong.
Yeah, then they're not reusable at that point.
Yeah, you need Jeff Bezos to get his scuba diving team out to go and recover them.
Oh, F1 jokes, or engine, I should say. Engine jokes are funny.
We've got a load of store messages and super chats as well as we get into the final 16 minutes of the count. Mark Larn saying $5 with a $5 super chat saying pun tokens for Sawyer. I love your coverage. It's always so nice to see a day launch for a change. Day launches from Slick 40 this year are becoming very common, and I don't want to, I don't want to jinx it, but we've had NG20 in the day. We've now got USSF-124 in the day. It's looking quite nice, I do have to say.
It's so nice to see, right, Julia? After all of these night launches, it changes also how you shoot the launch photography-wise, right?
Yeah, it certainly does change how you shoot the launch. In fact, it even changes how we operate our video camera. There's a little bit less we need to do. And I am really enjoying this change of pace to see some dayside missions. Thank you to the customers who have chosen SpaceX to launch their cargo, because the majority of the time we see nighttime Starlink launches, because Starlink launches are so routine now that they've been asked to move them to the nighttime so folks on Cape can operate. You don't have to reroute as much traffic in the air, and I'm just going to soak in this daytime.
Mm-hmm. Bideford, a very common name in chat, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. If you received one of them, make sure to thank them in chat. And Karen has purchased off the store saying 3rd time's the charm. I believe that'll be with a patch. There we go. Pete has also been purchasing off the store. Shouting out your sons, Josh and Ben. Shout out to them. Anonymous has ordered new patches. Now you want more. Simon I'm going to imagine that was in reference to something on the Starship stream, so sorry if I don't understand that. Adrian saying, great stream, I assume you meant there, guys. Thanks very much, Adrian. I wonder if that's our store, Adrian, buying off our own store. Deborah Jean, back at it again with a $5 super chat saying, thanks to Bideford, you're a gifting machine. Your kindness has got me hooked on a Red Team membership, and I've joined on my own now. Your many thanks. Well, thank you very much, Deborah, for joining. Not only the super chat, for joining on a Red Team level, and also thanking Bideford, because, yes, they are a gifting machine. They're always gifting things, not only in like stream chats, but also just in Starbase live chats, which is completely unnecessary, but greatly appreciated. Another question here from Astro3DI asking, do you think the increased efficiency of methane is worth the additional issues of handling methalox, boil off, and the more complex relighting of engines after weeks of no use? Sawyer, do you want to give this question a go?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. And again, I think it's slightly different based off of which mission we're talking about here. Starship, when you're filling that large of a vehicle with that much methane, I think it's worth the additional handling issues. They're finding out ways to deal with the boil-off. Whereas something like the IM-1 mission, which, again, is currently scheduled to launch 1:05 a.m. Eastern, so a couple hours from now, that one they've had to modify the TE at 39A so that they can load the lander on the pad with its methane, which they will be using to try and land efficiently on the moon just about a week later. That one we've seen a lot of issues with handling. They've done multiple tests out at the pad on it. So I think for a larger vehicle, if you can maintain the amount of methane that's needed, then worth it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we may split the room here as we enter the final 12 minutes of the count. Clipper asking, what is your favourite SpaceX drone ship? Julia, as the person who's always out at Port Canaveral to welcome these new boosters in, do you have a favourite, or, as I suspect, do you love them all?
Oh, I love them all. How can I not love them all? I've been following them since 2016. If you want me to say I have a soft spot for any one vessel that has operated within the SpaceX fleet, it's going to be a tie between Finn Falgout, which was one of our contracted tugs, and, well, our fairing catchers. I miss them.
Mystery and Mischief.
Yeah, or, well, we can even go back as far as Mr. Steven.
Oh, yeah.
Sawyer, do you have a favourite?
Ooh, that's mean. It's like asking to pick your favorite child. I mean, I think I'm gonna go with, of course, I Still Love You, since I was there for CRS-8, the first successful drone landing. So I even though it's, evolved since then, it's not necessarily the same ship, and it's now on the worst coast, I'm still gonna go with, of course, I Still Love You.
Thank you.
Plus, it's Valentine's Day, so it's perfect.
It's a very fitting answer there, Sawyer. Okisli was my first drone ship landing that I saw. However, I also do like ASOG because it's the newest one in the fleet, and it's a bit fresher, I know Just Read the Instructions has undergone its refurbs and whatnot to bring it kind of up to tech specs with ASOG, but I have a little soft spot for ASOG there.
Jack!
Aerospace.
Wait a minute, Jack is booing me in chat here.
Well, Mr. Kiltman, I mean, you have no power here, Jack. So you can boo Sawyer all you want, but you have no power here. Aerospace asking, will this be an RTLS flight? Sawyer, do you want to give a quick answer to that one?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, yeah. No, I'm kidding. This one is scheduled, we believe, to land back at LZ2. We know it's going to be 1 or 2, because those are the 2 landing zones. But as of now, we believe that this will land at LZ2, making it only the second Falcon 9 to ever land at LZ2. Normally, they just stick with LZ1.
And Evan is asking, are there any Falcon Heavy launches coming up, Sawyer?
It's gonna be a little bit, so not really anything soon, but there are still a couple of Falcon Heavy flights currently scheduled for later this year. So I believe the next one is no earlier than April, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, we've got a big old WeatherSat GOES-U from NOAA, and then maybe the Griffin Mission 1 with Viper, Europa Clipper, that's a big one as well this year.
Yes.
Other than that, everything is kind of being shunted off to 2025. The next heavy lift vehicle from the Cape will actually be the Delta IV Heavy, carrying NROL 70, flying its last flight, which is currently scheduled net March 14th. 2024 from Slick 37B. That's going to be a very, very sad day for the Delta IV, a wonderful vehicle.
Also, it's not goes you, it goes up.
Gary with a store message saying NSF is the best.
We need to record that sound as a vent and transition, just saying.
And Graham, I believe, saying, Go Flight 3, thanks for what you do. Apparently he's saying, Jack for president. I'm not sure whether that's a good idea for Jack or for anyone else on Earth, but there you go, Jack. You can take that little bit.
I'd vote for him.
They've purchased a patch there. I mean, only if he's wearing a kilt. He's purchased a patch there off shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We're now entering 8 minutes to go. There we go, to the opening of the window, which we believe, with the frost that's on the side of the vehicle and the vents going off, is the SpaceX. We believe they're targeting the opening, the top of the window here, for USSF-124, which is carrying 6 different payloads to a low Earth orbit. Very nice VT there, SpaceX. And it's going to a little bit of a northeasterly trajectory. Not as far northeast as the ISS flights go, just kind of halfway between directly east and 51.6 degrees.
Northeast-ish.
Northeast-ish. Kind of like, what is it, east-northeast? That's the one. The one between northeast and east.
Yeah, kind of like that. Again, this is just based off of the not Mars that we have and the NOTAMs, as opposed to them actually telling us, hey, here's the inclination. Because for those unaware, again, this mission, USSF-124, has a lot of parts of it that are classified, but we do know that there are 6 satellites on board. 2 of them are part of the Missile Defense Agency's Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor, and the other ones are for the Space Development Agency's Tranche 0 of basically missile monitoring satellites.
Mm-hmm. And as we are now within 7 minutes to go, the Falcon 9 has begun its engine chill prior to the launch. The next event we'll be looking for is at the next biggest event, I believe, will be at 1 minute, which is when the flight computer kind of takes control to begin the final pre-launch text. Between then and now, the loading of liquid oxygen will also begin to wrap up on the first and second stages.
We also have engine chill that occurred just a short time ago, which basically conditions the engines so that they're not in total shock once you run all the fuel through them and then ignite it.
Yeah, you need to get them ready for the very cold temperatures which the fuel lines will have to embrace. Andres, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, saying with a $5 super chat saying, fun fact, the ISTC crew at the Epcot break room are watching this launch. We are nerds. Well, thank you very much, everybody in the Epcot break room, for watching.
What can I say? It's a small world. We appreciate it.
Angry American doing my job for me with a $5 super chat saying 14.5 thousand watching, only one in this 1600 likes. Smash the like, kick the algorithm monster. I concur with that message. Flippers with the $2 super chat saying, when Kevin Michael Reed giraffe plushie. Well, if you're watching the Starship stream, the giraffe was actually drawn by Alex, not Mr. Kevin Michael Reed. So it would be an Alex giraffe plushie. But either way, well, I'll forward that onto the store team.
By the way, Julia, I'm sorry to interrupt 1 quick second, Julia. I'm sure you're sick of all of my puns and want to get off so you can actually focus on launch photography and not my bad jokes.
Well, yeah. I'm going to go track a rocket, take some pictures, and let Max do his thing. So hopefully we have some great imagery to share with you before we end the stream. So you all rocket nerds, enjoy the launch.
We'll talk to you after, Julia.
Apocalypse Cow has gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Thanks very much for that. And Paul has become a Launch Director member, which is the second from the top, I believe. I keep getting them mixed up in my head, but Flight Engineer is the top, so Launch Director is just underneath that. Thank you very much, everybody, for the support. Obviously, we couldn't do this without it. And everybody watching, everybody seems to have come over now from the Starship stream, so thank you everybody who's sticking around for this launch in just over 4 minutes time. Sawyer, very quickly before we get into the actual launch here, Xbar is asking, why would Falcon 9 land at landing zone 2 even though Nova C has been delayed?
It might be one of those things where they kind of just had it set aside anyway, that they were planning the trajectory and the return of everything, LZ-1 for Nova C and LZ-2 for this mission. So rather than change it and deal with reprogramming all of the, landing stuff in the booster, just keep it as is. And I should point out at this point, we should be having the TE, the transporter erector, retracting slightly.
I can see it kind of bending down there now.
Yeah, it's about 2-ish degrees back. Once it lifts off, it will throw all the way back. But yeah, you can see the clamps that were around the fairing are open, and it is leaning backwards.
Just over 3 minutes to go now until we have the ignition of all 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage of B-1078, aiming to perform its 7th flight today. As we've said many times already today, on board inside the payload fairing there, for those of you just joining us, are 6 different payloads, 2 satellites. There's one satellite from L3 Harris, the other from Northrop Grumman for the Space Force, for the Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor mission for the US Missile Defense Agency. There's also 4 SDA Tranche 0 Tracking Layer Missile Warning Satellites constructed by L3 Harris, which are also being launched today on USSF-124. All 6 of these going to the same low Earth orbit atop
Stage 1 LOX
Falcon
load.
9.
Stage 1 LOX load is now complete.
There we go. So now, in just over a minute's time, we'll be getting into the final section of the countdown, the hot end of the countdown, quite literally as it ends with the ignition of those engines.
Pun token
Under 2 minutes to go now. Thank you very much, Sawyer. I'll deposit it in my pun token bank if I had such a thing.
And now Stage 2 LOX load is complete as well. So far, everything continuing to follow the timeline as expected. With that also means that Falcon 9 is fully loaded with all of its propellants.
You see that wonderful last vent there from the side, spewing off into the Floridian air.
One final purge of that line, which again indicates that the second stage LOX load is complete, clearing out anything that may be remaining in that lines because you don't want it accidentally interacting with the flames of the rocket itself and causing potential damage.
Had another little puff there from the strong back ever so slightly as we now approach the final 60 seconds of the count here for USSF-124 from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We're under a minute to go now. All of those vents now starting to wrap up. The vehicle's nice and frosty. All the liquid oxygen is on board. All the kerosene is on board.
It should also be pressurized for flight, and the onboard computer should have control in what's known as Falcon 9 entering startup.
Vehicle is now on itself. Controlling itself, rather. It's not standing on top of itself. That would be a little bit worrying. 30 seconds to go now.
We just need the official confirmation from the launch director that we are go for launch, and then we're good to go.
15 seconds approaching now. We are go for launch from the mission director. 10 seconds to go. Look to the bottom of the strong back. Here comes the deluge. We have an ignition and liftoff of USSF-124. We're off and away with this mission. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. It will start to pitch down range. Here we go. Let's listen in for the sound. We're 1 minute and 12 seconds into flight on auto track here. We're through max Q, the moment of peak aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. We can still hear that crisp Carolox crackle from the base of Falcon 9 B1078, lifting these 6 payloads.
We also had a great view of it breaking the sound barrier there right as we switched to the tracking camera. That was not a cloud it went through, that was the vapor cone forming.
Beautiful shot here from the ground as Falcon 9 pitches down range into its east-northeast trajectory. This from the press site of one of our bots, I believe. Beautiful track here as the thinner atmosphere allows the plume of those 9 Merlins to expand. And we should be approaching first stage engine cutoff, or MECO, in 15 seconds time.
Right, we're going to have 3 events in quick succession at that point. As you mentioned, MECO, main engine cutoff, followed by the stage separation between the first and second stages. At that point, we should have ignition of the MVAC, the Merlin vacuum engine, for the second stage. Meanwhile, that first stage is going to perform its boost back burn to turn itself back towards the Cape to land at the landing zone.
There's MECO, and I can see 2 separate objects, and there's a boost back burn from the first stage. And the second stage is continuing on to orbit. You can see them there. First stage just leaving the frame to the top. Second stage is on the bottom.
Love when you get that plume interaction.
Even though the sun is still shining brightly, we can see there from the ground that little point of light in the sky is the vehicle still firing its engine.
Seems like at this point SpaceX is not going to give us views of the payload given its classified nature, so we will keep an eye on the first stage here from their views, and we will also use our camera still to track stage 2 as long as we can.
And the low sun is refracting through the atmosphere wonderfully to give us these wonderful lighting conditions on the vehicle as the boost back burn continues, which will be ending should be right now. You can see that second stage continuing its burn there.
As well as first stage, I believe. Yeah, I believe that first stage is being tracked as well with our auto track there. Again, it will come back in for a landing. Besides the boost back burn, there are still 2 more engine burns to slow it down, including the entry burn, followed by the landing burn, where hopefully it will touch down at the landing zone about 8 minutes after flight.
Yeah, just for everyone who's now joining us during the launch, this is a United States Space Force mission. It's a classified mission, which means, as always, we don't get live views from the second stage, unfortunately, because of national security. So if you're wondering why we're not showing the second stage, it's because we're not allowed to we're not allowed to see it, basically. As you can see, the shadows now on the grid fins of B1078 as it positions for its entry burn back into the Earth's atmosphere, as it will aim on what we believe will be landing zone 2 back at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Wonderful view of the atmosphere here from the onboard cameras of this booster.
You can also see the cold gas thrusters, those little puffs that you see helping to kind of steer the vehicle at this point, and it's in the thinner parts of the atmosphere. Once it gets to the thicker parts of the atmosphere, that's when you'll see those grid fins, the waffle-looking things, start moving to help steer it.
Clouds looking absolutely beautiful over the Atlantic today. As Julia was saying, there's barely a cloud in the sky in Florida. It's a beautiful weather for a beautiful launch.
And it is also past the highest point in its trajectory, and you can now see from the numbers in the bottom left there that the altitude is decreasing. You will see the speed increasing quite a lot as well, but the 2 burns will help slow it down to 0 by the end.
And in just under a minute's time, we should see the first stage beginning the entry burn. This is a view from inside the interstage, looking up towards where the second stage used to be. It's no longer there. It's currently on its way to a low Earth orbit, along with the 6 payloads on board. And the actual timing for the entry burn is 6 minutes and 16 seconds, but SpaceX's Falcon 9 doesn't actually follow the timings. It's all based off of telemetry and live data. So if that entry burn starts a little bit before or a little bit after, it's perfectly okay, because it's just how the vehicle works. It would rather have accurate data than just being based off of timings.
Yeah, the only time that isn't approximate is the launch time itself, the T0. Everything else
Yeah.
is approximate and is usually within a couple of seconds.
Yeah. So fingers crossed we should see this this entry burn starting. As we can see the cold gas thrusters puffing along. And here is the entry burn, caught from the ground. I believe Julia is operating this camera. So here comes the booster, back through the atmosphere.
We like to say this is fighting
fire.
Yep, you
I stole your line, Sawyer. I stole it.
Basically, as it goes through this part of the atmosphere here, you can see it kind of slowing down. Also, with this being kerosene, which is a carbon-based fuel, that's how these vehicles continue to get sooty after all of these launches. And you will notice that the speed is still going to be going up, but that will actually decrease as it gets into the thicker atmosphere as well.
And you could actually see there, the Falcon just did a big turn to the right, it appeared in this view. It's actually now pitching that back towards the landing zone, because at the point of the entry burn, the Falcon 9 isn't actually on a trajectory to hit the landing zone. It aerodynamically steers itself with the grid fins, which is why on the CRS-16 mission, when the grid fins broke, that's why the vehicle didn't hit the ground. It splashed down in the ocean. This is in order to save or help protect people and equipment on the ground. We're getting a beautiful view of the skid strip here at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station as the Falcon 9 now heads back down for its RTLS landing at landing zone 1. Here it is. The engine's ignited, the Merlin's ignited on the bottom of B-1078. Landing leg should be deploying any second now. Any second now.
Once it gets closer down, there we go. Now it's lower down, slowing down.
There go the landing legs. It was higher up than I thought it was. And just over the trees here, it looks like a successful splashdown.
Touchdown.
Excuse me. Touchdown, rather. You can tell I've been on a few streams today of B-1078 there.
Right on schedule, it appears.
There we go, touchdown.
X marks the spot, pretty much dead center. That is amazing, and for those who like the numbers, that is, if I recall correctly here, the 198th successful landing in a row since the previous failure. If that was LZ-2, that's the 10th landing on LZ-2, and all 10 have been successful. It's also SpaceX's 168th launch from Slick 40.
And of course, as always, beautiful sound of the triple sonic booms there. And I could also hear a little bit of a VAB squeal on ascent. Julia, how was that?
I hope I had my camera wide enough for you. I tried to bring it out wide, but you could see the sonic boom shockwave as the booster was free falling before it actually started burning for the landing burn. And that was quite a spectacular landing.
Indeed, indeed. And it looks as if SpaceX has very handfully brought up a little stream here showing us the Kennedy Space Center on the right and Vandenberg Space Force Base on the left, because we've still got a couple flights to go today from Launch Complex 39A and Space Launch Complex 4 East, and SpaceX now confirms that Falcon 9 has landed at Landing Zone 2. So this vehicle definitely landed at LZ2, which leaves Landing Zone 1 nice and empty for the Intuitive Machines 1 mission later today, with the Nova C lander. That's currently scheduled for 5 minutes past 6 UTC Thursday. That is 5 minutes past 1 in the morning local time for Florida. And of course, in just under actually a couple of hours time, Starlink Group 714 is scheduled at 30 minutes past midnight UTC from Vandenberg. So SpaceX definitely has a very busy calendar coming up over the next day or so with Falcon and of course Starship, as I'm sure you've all been watching earlier today. And that is LC-39A there with that Falcon 9 standing tall ready, fingers crossed, with less methane problems for the loading of the IM-1 Nova C lander. So there we go. Sawyer, what are your thoughts on that then? An empty launch pad, NASA's favourite view on launch day, as we like to say. That means the mission is off and currently going. As I said before, no information on the second stage. So it might still be firing, it might not. Maybe we'll get some more confirmation later on, but we just don't know.
I'm going to go with this mission. My favorite view is a booster successfully at LZ-2. So I'm very happy to see that the booster came back and landed again. And now we have another launch coming tonight from the Cape Canaveral area out of the Kennedy Space Center. That one's exciting. Again, that's a moon mission. The moon missions are exciting because keep in mind, every lunar landing with humans on it launched from Launch Complex 39A. And now we have IM-1 set to go to the moon from there. So excited for that. Excited for a second booster at the landing zone because we don't just get one, but two RTLS missions today at the Cape. And I believe Vandenberg, though, is a drone ship landing, so boo. But beautiful launch, beautiful landing.
I could not agree more. During the launch, can you believe it or not, during the launch, we got support, which I'm going to go through very quickly here. A $10 super chat from Master Toy Maker saying Sawyer has at least 10 puns, hoping some of them would land, but no pun intended. Is that a pun? Steve has gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Thanks very much for those, Steve. If you've received one of them, make sure to thank them in chat. Jean-Pierre, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, with a store purchase saying, love the patches, looking forward to Flight 3, thanks for all you do. You're very welcome, and I hope you enjoy your patch for the new Flight 3 patch designed by Pauline in the store now.
And also there is our view that we're going to be keeping an eye on now for the next couple hours from the Cape. So we'll keep an eye here on LC-39A as things progress tonight. We'll keep that on screen. I'm going to
put it in chat. I'm going to put the link to Space Coast Live in chat. I'm going to spam it now. If you go to nsf.live/Space Coast, that will bring up the link, or that is the link to Space Coast Live, which has all of our robots at the Launch Complex 39 press site. We also have Fleet Cam on there, so you can keep an eye on the boosters and fairings coming back to port when they land on the drone ships. We also have our Cape Cams looking over the landing zones and Blue Origin's facility, which has been very active as of late. They've erected a Pathfinder simulator. It doesn't have tankage, but it's still like the size of a New Glenn booster, which is very cool to see.
For Max's picture, it's big, which if you haven't seen it, check his socials.
Yeah, go see Max's Twitter. It's a big booster. Dino Z, very quickly, with a $9.99 super chat. No message, but thank you very much for the support. And with that, we are going to leave it there. Thank you, first of all, Julia in the field. I'm not sure if you can talk as we begin to pack up the broadcast camera and such.
I absolutely can, and I cannot wait to join you all later on tonight for yet another launch.
Fingers crossed. And Sawyer, thanks very much for talking with me.
Always a pleasure talking with you, and let me just say, if the second mission from the Cape goes tonight, I am one happy camper.
In the background, pushing the buttons, as I alluded to earlier, Patrick, thank you very much for your services this evening, afternoon, morning, where it's afternoon or evening for you. You're in Central Time, I think. So thank you very much for that. And as always, my name's been Brian Caton, talking about rockets all day today, about Starship, Falcon 9, launches, you name it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
And here we go.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Our 68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, Atlantic. Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal. Fighting downside SDA off. Bring in SDA off. It's orange! Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag, Tango.
343 unfolds to go. Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
need any more of these.